Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh, it's like taking a bath in the Ganga. It's like taking a shower, just chanting those mantras, isn't it? Just feels so good. What a good way to start one's day, to start any auspicious activity. You go back and you purify your mind. These mantras have that power. If we just, if we learn to use them, they'll be the greatest treasures that we have. And another great treasure is our Bhagavad Gita. We'll be discussing it today. Well, let me start here. Let's imagine something. Imagine that you had two communities. Right? One community, all the members of that community, they were very sensitive towards others. They really saw themselves as being part of something bigger than themselves. They were very concerned about the experience that others were having. They kind of were in a state of mind where, like, their own needs, they felt a sense of security. And they were more concerned that others were doing well. So kindness and generosity became high-level concerns, were high-level concerns in that community. Then there was another community wherein people were especially concerned about their own experience. They were particularly, there's a bit of fear in that community. Will I get what I need to be happy? I'm going to need to do what I have to do to get it. Concerns for others' experience did not rate high in their priority list. At the top of the priority list was their own needs and concerns. Okay? Which community would you rather be part of? First one or the second one? First. The first one sounds like it'd be a much nicer place, doesn't it? It just, you could imagine how harmonious life could be there. But what if you were stuck in the second group? And the reason why you couldn't get over to the first group is because your consciousness was not yet aligned with what everybody there had. You understand? It's like, yes, you belong in group number one, but your mentality is group number two. So you're welcome to come into group number one as soon as your mentality becomes like group number one. It's essentially what a prison does, right? It's like you were a person that couldn't follow. We had laws that were meant to kind of make sure that we all operate well with one another. You decided that you would transgress those laws. So you're put into a community of people that transgress those laws. And you can come out theoretically, although it doesn't always work that way, but you can come out when you've learned to operate harmoniously with that law-abiding group. It's something like that. And so what will help us develop that kind of more sensitive mentality, more selfless, more concerned with the experience of others? What will help us do that? In our journey through the cosmos, it will require some cosmic sensitivity training. And that is called the law of karma. And so that's what we'll be discussing today. Law of karma is cosmic sensitivity training, right? Rewarding behavior that is, let's say, that embraces ideas like sensitivity, generosity, kindness, gratitude, and giving a bit of a pinch when there's a behavior that's the opposite. This is the cosmic sensitivity training of the law of karma. Now, we began this topic of looking at the world that we're moving through, right? We began by just looking more at the self, the nature of the self, the mind, and now we're talking about the world that we're moving through. And we said it's something like a virtual reality. A virtual reality may be the clearest analogy that we can use that describes how the yogis saw the world that we're moving through. And we said that a person, if you all remember this, those that were here earlier, we said that if we had a friend that was lost in a virtual reality, that became addicted to moving around in that virtual world and seeking the pleasures that are there, so much so that they forgot about the real world. And we wanted them to come out, to turn away from the virtual world and come back into the real world. But we wanted to do it in such a way where we just didn't straight out deny them, but we wanted them to come to that conclusion on their own. We wanted them to decide, I'm coming out. How would we get them to come out when they're pursuing all their desires in that artificial world? We said that we could download and install 3 programs into the virtual reality. Remember that? Yes? Okay. So the first one we said was the law of time, right? Which is a force that's moving the material energy, changing the material energy, pushing the material energy through cycles of creation, maintenance, and destruction. And so whatever it is that you achieve, whatever is fulfilling your desires in the virtual world, before the law of time was installed, you could just enjoy it forever. You had no fear of losing it. You never suffered the pain of loss. But by installing this law of time, suddenly all the desires that your friend is pursuing in the virtual reality become complicated. The pleasure becomes blended in with experiences of loss and pain because the force of time now is changing and pushing everything that they're experiencing in that realm through cycles of ultimately of destruction. Does it sound like that might help motivate the person to say, is this my real home, this virtual reality, right? If you're in that virtual reality now, this is a big change, right? Very significant. Everything is shifting in this realm. The yogis are saying in the real world, there is no time installed. There is no time program installed. There is no force pushing everything through cycles of creation, maintenance, and destruction. This is only in the artificial realm where time exists. We are beyond time by nature, and we're currently experiencing an artificial realm wherein time is installed. Interesting idea? Yes? What do you think?
Yeah.
Crazy idea? A little bit hard. I mean, it's a little bit wild. It's a little bit science fiction. It's a little bit crazy, but this is what the yogis essentially are saying. So the first one was time, and then the second one is karma. My friend was moving around in that virtual world, enjoying pleasures, aloof to any possible consequences to their actions, right? The world was, in their mind, in the virtual world, that world was revolving around them and their desires. And it really didn't matter what they would do. There were no consequences to those actions. What if they moved in the virtual world in such a way where, in the pursuit of their own desires, they conflicted with the experience of another? Well, it didn't matter because there were no reactions for it in that realm. But now we've downloaded and installed another program, and that is called karma. And what this karma is going to do is it's going to say that for every action that you commit within the virtual reality, there's going to be a response. Whoa, this is going to change things. This is going to change things. And not only that, the program is designed as sensitivity training within the virtual reality. That the actions that your friend now does, he'll discover that when I'm kind, when I'm generous within the virtual realm, when I'm sensitive to others within this realm, when I embrace a sense of gratitude within the virtual realm, I'm rewarded within that virtual realm with greater virtual prosperity, greater virtual pleasure, greater virtual happiness. Does that make sense? And then just the opposite. And if in the pursuit of my pleasures, I conflict with others and I don't care, right? I consider my own experience more important than theirs. And in doing so, I bring some kind of discomfort or some kind of harm to another. Well, that behavior will result in a programmed response that will bring discomfort to myself, that'll bring some sort of pain into my own or into my friend's own experience. This is the law of karma. That makes sense? Are you with me? Everybody? Okay, so that's what the yogis are saying that we're going through in this realm. We're dealing with time and we're dealing with the law of karma. We hear so much about karma in the Bhagavad Gita, right? This has to be, now hear me out. This is really important because what like a text like the Bhagavad Gita is saying, there are texts, Vedic texts, which are saying we are living in a realm where this law is in effect, where the program of karma is installed. Therefore, if you want to live a more prosperous, bountiful, material life, there are ways that you can do that, right? You should honor all the different devas that are providing the things of this world that we receive, the sun, the moon, the rain, et cetera, et cetera. It would be insensitive to receive these gifts and not give thanks for them, not to demonstrate some gratitude. Therefore, all the Vedic ritual, right, wherein one say does puja, right, does some, this is an expression, a visual expression, a tangible expression of you give me rain. Without the rain, I don't have food. You provided for us. Let me offer this offering to you as a demonstration of gratitude. And then one will be blessed through that by receiving more. Right? This is the idea. It's sensitivity. You're insensitive. You're moving around the world not appreciating what you're being given. If you don't, then things are going to dry up. You know, you may experience drought. You may experience loss in some way. Or if you demonstrate this gratitude, you'll receive more. Right? And then also consider generosity. Consider being kind. If you give in charity, you will receive back, right? You'll receive back in your next life, right? In your next life, you'll be born with more than you can imagine if you give in this life. So give, be generous, be kind, be sensitive to others. Make expressions of gratitude, and in this way, you will live happily in this world, far more happily. This is what the four Vedas especially teach. Before you get to the Upanishads, which come to the end of these teachings, they're saying you can live happily in this world if you do this. There's a promise there that this all works. But when you get to the Bhagavad Gita, it's more Upanishadic in the sense of saying there's more to life than this. There's more to life than just working with, in other words, imagine if you put this law of karma, installed it into the virtual reality so that your friend would recognize the futility of it and want to come out. But imagine if your friend just said, I understand this law and how the virtual reality is programmed. I'm just going to use it to try to enjoy this world more, right? We would be missing the point. The whole point is it's to help us come out. And so this early on in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is going to make some important points like this. He's saying essentially that smart people, intelligent people, real yogis, they're not interested in trying to cultivate good karma. They're not interested in trying to game the system, to try to work within the system to get more material benefit. What they're interested in is transcending the virtual reality, to going beyond it. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Maybe we could read a few Bhagavad Gita verses. Why don't we go to the second chapter verses? There we go. No, the other one. second chapter. No, that's not the one, the other one.
This is 248:50.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Thank you. So yeah, 248 through 50. This first verse gives a nice definition of yoga. Established in yoga, letting go of your attachments, perform your actions, O Arjuna, seeing success and failure with an even mind. Evenness of mind is called yoga. Samadvam yoga uchite. Action motivated by material desire is far inferior to that done with a disciplined mind. Take refuge in wisdom, Arjuna. Those seeking to enjoy the results of action simply find misery. So he's saying, learn to have an even mind to the ups and downs of this world. Don't try to pursue the ups and avoid the downs. Have an even mind whether the external world is up or down, right? If you're trying to pursue material happiness, even recognizing how the law of karma is working and trying to work within it, you'll get higher, you'll receive things of this world, but that law of time is still there. And whatever you receive, you're ultimately going to lose, and you're going to find misery at the end. So he continues, one whose engagement, now he's talking about what's called karma yoga, work in this world, but not to game the system. Be active in this world and embrace your responsibilities in this world, but not as a path for material enjoyment. Do it with detachment. One whose engagement is infused with wisdom. That wisdom means detachment. I understand that I'm spiritual. I'm beyond all this. I'm not pursuing material gain. One whose engagement is infused with wisdom rids themselves of both good and bad reactions, both karmic rewards and karmic punishments. Therefore, devote yourself to yoga, which is the art of all work. Right? We can move through this world, we can embrace our responsibilities, we can do the things that we have to do. We can be responsible people in our family, responsible people in a workplace, responsible people in society. And do it in such a way where we're setting ourselves free rather than entangling ourselves in the virtual reality, entangling ourselves within the power of that law of karma. Right? Now let's check some more verses in chapter 4. The path of action, right? Working in this world. What's another word for action? Karma, right? So karma, the word karma has multiple implications, right? Most fundamentally means work. And especially when we say work, we mean the social responsibilities that we have in life. Again, whether it's family responsibilities or social responsibilities, broader social responsibilities. But because the yogis understood that these actions bring reactions, then when we say karma, we're not only necessarily speaking about the work itself, but the reactions that come from work. And I think in our Western upbringing, when we say karma, we're almost always talking about the reactions, right? That for every action, there's karma, there's a reaction that comes from it. So these verses say that the path of action, the path of not walking away from the world, right? That could be one response in the virtual reality, couldn't it? I'm caught, if the person in the virtual reality said, I see what's going on. I see that every time I do something in this world, a reaction, I'm destined to receive a reaction for it, whether good or bad. And therefore, I think if I want to become free from the entanglement, I should stop acting. So I'm gonna act as if I don't have a family. I'm gonna act as if society doesn't exist anymore. I'm gonna walk away from it all, step away from action. Right? This was Arjuna's idea at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Let me walk away from my responsibility as a warrior, right? Because I can see it's going to bring reactions. It's going to entangle me. Krishna's saying there's a way. Krishna's saying just by walking away from the world does not free you from the law of karma. And there's a way to be active in this world. This is real important. There's a way to be active in this world that's beyond the programming of the law of karma. There's a way to be active in this world and be karma-free. That's what the yogis are aiming for. So he says, the path of action can be hard to understand. How can I be active in this world and not receive reactions? I don't understand. Arjuna didn't understand. One must understand karma or actions that bring good result. What does it say? Results? Reactions.
Reactions.
One must understand, okay, so here in these verses, Krishna defines 3 types of karma. He said, one must understand karma or actions that bring good reactions. One must understand vikarma or actions that bring painful reactions. And one must understand akarma or actions that are reaction free, right? Karma, vikarma, and akarma. This is all described here in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This akarma platform that the yogi wants to work on. A person who is free from the, how do we act in this world and not receive reactions? How do we operate on that akarmic level? A person who is free from the motive of material desires in all of their endeavors and has burned up the reactions of work in the fire of knowledge is called a sage by learned people, right? So here it's talking about the motive in the work that you do. If you have the knowledge, if you understand that even when I get good reactions, the force of time comes along and takes it away, even the good reactions bring pain, then why am I pursuing good karma in this world? And then comes the detachment, the purity in the motive. Let me act in this world, not to try to get a material reaction. Let me act in this world because it's the right thing to do. And let me act in this world as an extension of the desire of God. Let me become an instrument of God's grace in this world. Let that be my motive. And if that's my motive, then there's no reactions to the work I do. There's no lesson that I need to learn from it. I've already learned the lesson. Does that make sense? You already with me? Okay. Having let go of their attachments to the fruits of work, to the reactions of their work, always satisfied and independent. They're satisfied because time isn't taking away their happiness, because they found this happiness within. Right? It's the spiritual happiness, the nature of the self that's never taken from one. So having let go of their attachments to the fruits of work, always satisfied and independent, such a person, even when engaged in action, does nothing at all. There's nothing that they get reactions for. Any thoughts about that? Any questions about that? Yes, Paul, one moment.
Thank you for the microphone. Thank you. Could you speak a couple of words about the word independent in this verse?
This last one?
Yeah.
Having let go of their attachments to the fruits of their work, always satisfied and independent, such a person, even when engaged in action, does nothing at all. Let's take a look at that. That's verse 420. My initial thought is that it means that they're not dependent on an external circumstance to be happy. But let's see. Let's see it in the Sanskrit. 420. Been fully engaged, in spite of, does not, certainly, kinshit, anything, grow to do. This is the translation we have here. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent. Having given up attachment for the results, nitya, always, tripta, being satisfied, nirashrayaha, without any shelter. I think that's the word that's being independent, without any shelter. And in the context of this verse, near ashraya. Ashraya means to take shelter. Near ashraya means they're not taking shelter. And here it seems to be in the context of, generally we take shelter of a material home. We take shelter of a material job. We take shelter of a relationship with another body. And we think that that's what is going to protect our happiness and protect us from suffering. This person is independent of that. They're not dependent on anything external to operate as their shelter, because they're in touch with their own true nature. And so therefore they're independent of an external circumstance to provide their happiness or their protection from unhappiness. Make sense? Yeah. Nirashraya. Thank you. Okay. Oh, look at that. Thank you. I want to read one more verse from you from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is from the first canto, 5th chapter, text 18. And this is such a potential game changer. Another way of looking at life, a way that the yogis look at life that may be entirely unintuitive to the common person, but when you catch on to it, requires faith. But when you catch on to it, it just opens up a whole new way to live, a whole new way to think. Would you like to hear that? Yes?
Yes.
Do you really want to hear it?
Yes.
Are you truly interested in perhaps this life-changing, game-changing insight into life? Because it's right here. Okay, I'm going to read it. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, down to the lowest planet. So it's saying we can pursue good karma. Where's the real good karma? Where do you find it? In the higher planets, right? In your next life, you ascend to higher realms in this universe. Or where do you find like the real bad karma? In the lower planets, where Earth is kind of like middle ground. But it's saying that persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined, that are really looking into life, trying to understand it, they should endeavor only for that purposeful end. There's another goal. There's another goal that they're aiming for, which is not obtainable even by wandering from the top planet down to the lowest planet. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, right, that good karma, those good results, it can be obtained automatically in the course of time. Just as in the course of time, we obtain miseries, even though we do not desire them. So think about this. What they're saying is, generally our strategy in life is we try to go out and find happiness. We do things in pursuit of happiness. He's saying that we don't go out and try to find misery. We don't work for misery. We don't make it a goal, make decisions, endeavor to find misery, and yet misery comes. In the same way, we don't have to go out and pursue happiness. Happiness comes, right? On the material level, that's how it works. And the yogi is going to say, in my past, I've done some good works, I've done some bad works. Because of the good works, happiness comes my way in life, pleasant things come. Because I do some bad works, I've done some bad works, the painful things come to me in life. I get that. And I've got a bank account of this karma sitting there, or you could say I have a bag of seeds of both good and bad karma that are waiting to sprout. And I'll obtain the fruits of my past works. There's no need for me to pursue happiness, just as there's no need for me to pursue distress. Both are going to be coming at me. What if instead of continuing this cycle, right, I'm getting the fruits of my past work and I'm creating fruits in the future that will also be good and bad. What if instead of that, I just let that go? I didn't pursue material happiness anymore, right? I minimized all my needs. And instead I started to look within to find the steady source of happiness, which is my own true nature. What if I focused on that? And I won't be able to really focus on that with any real determination or steadiness unless I let go of the pursuit of material happiness. Otherwise, I'll be distracted. Otherwise, my energy will be drained in that pursuit of material happiness. So the yogis learn to minimize those needs. We've been saying all along, right, there's two basic categories of the qualities of the yogi. One is kindness and one is simplicity, right? And that simplicity, it can be there because they're like, I don't need lots of external things or circumstances. to be satisfied. Therefore, I can minimize my needs, simplify my life, and do that internal work that the yogi does. Thoughts about that? How are we doing so far? Just cosmic sensitivity training. We're all on the same page? All right. I want to bring up a real big, important question. I began studying Bhagavad Gita about 40 years ago. It was 40 years ago. And I began teaching it shortly after that, at least in one way or another. Or at least talking about it a lot with people. And I found that over the course of those 4 decades, the way that people respond, society has changed, values have changed. I can see it. Now I'm getting older. I just turned 60 years old. And so I have a little bit of something to look back on, a little bit of time to look back on and see how society has shifted and changed, attitudes have changed. And when we used to talk about karma, or let me put it this way, when the topic of karma is brought up today, there's a concern about it that I didn't feel was there in the past. In the past, we talk about karma, and I think it was natural for people to say, oh, I see. That makes sense. It's an interesting idea that you get rewarded for kind, sensitive behavior. You get punished for insensitive behavior. That sounds like something that's good. That sounds like something that if we were more aware of, it would make the world a better place. That was the general attitude. People didn't necessarily believe it was true, but it kind of just fit in with the golden rule kind of teachings, do unto others as you would like done, and everything would be better if we all thought like that. Weren't we all trained in some way or another like that? People might say, what good is this law of karma if nobody comes and tells you about it? But fact is, we were all taught this in one way or another. We were all exposed to the idea of kindness to others being a virtue. And we've all had the opportunity to choose, do I want to live that way? Or would I prefer to ignore these teachings and pursue my own happiness above that of others? And so that's there in every society. And every society has this golden rule and teaches it. But what I find today, rather than that more open attitude, that there is a concern out there that's often articulated when you hear about karma. Can anyone think of what that concern might be? You may have heard it brought up in conversations. The idea that this is victim blaming, right? In other words, you have this theory that whatever pleasant things, whatever material gain, whatever wealth, beauty, influence, fame, possessions, that someone that has a lot of that it's evidence of their having lived a good life, being a good person. And if someone is suffering, if someone is poor, if someone is diseased, if someone in any way is enduring suffering in this world, you're saying it's because they chose to live a bad life. And so really the victims of oppression, you're saying that they brought it upon themselves, and you're ignoring the oppressor and saying that they're a good person. You have a horrible theory here, and it leads to oppression, right? What do you think about that? Do they have a point?
It's true, it's happening all the time.
We do see people do this. Can the idea of the law of karma be used as a tool for oppression? It can. It absolutely can be. Does that mean it's not true? No, it doesn't mean it's not true. And is there a way that it needs to be understood? In other words, like everything, if you take a knife, is a knife good or is a knife bad?
One man's tool is another man's weapon.
Exactly. For one person, a knife is something that's useful. One skillful surgeon is using it to remove cancer from the body of a person and heal them. Another person could take that same knife and use that as a weapon to kill someone. It's not that the knife is good or bad. The question is, how do we use it? And knowledge of karma is neither good or bad. It's a question of how it's used. So this becomes real important. The idea here is that where do we get our knowledge of karma? We get it from these Vedic texts. Now we have to understand the context in which the Vedic texts were provided to us. We can read about this. We can read that Vyasadeva, the sage that downloaded, categorized, edited, and compiled these teachings, that he did it from a place of compassion, that his entire purpose was to relieve. He saw all of this, he saw in his samadhi. All of this he saw in his meditation. He saw the Supreme. He saw the energies of the Supreme. He saw the living beings and their suffering in disconnection from the Supreme. And therefore, he downloaded and compiled this knowledge to relieve that suffering. It means that it must always be used as a tool of compassion. If it's applied in a way that causes suffering, that inflicts suffering, it's an entire misinterpretation of its purpose. But there is something that we can all keep in mind when we speak about karma that can really be clarifying. Because does it not seem that we're saying that people that have material gifts in their life are necessarily better people, and people that have less so are less good? And it seems like it can lead to a type of judgmentalism, yeah? Right? But I want to share with you something about the law of karma. This is information that is also found in these texts that can help clarify this. Or would you like to hear that? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. Okay. There's two terms. It's not necessary that you memorize the Sanskrit for this. And it's not the easiest word to say. But there's prarabdha karma and aprarabdha karma. Whenever I say this, I can't help but think of Scooby-Doo. Prarabdha karma. Aprarabdha karma. It's prarabdha and aprarabdha. But prarabdha means manifest karma. It means that it's a reaction to our past actions that is here and visible and already manifest, right? The bodies that we're in right now are manifestations of our past works, our past deeds, right? And it may be that we're in a particular home, we may have a particular car, we may have a particular spouse, all of these are manifest expressions of the reactions of our past deeds, prarabdha karma. But there's also something called aprarabdha karma, karma that's sitting there like a seed. It's like we all have a big bag of seeds that we're carrying around. You've all seen the mustard seed, right? Very tiny little black seed. And, even if you get a decent sized bag, it's hard to even count them all. What to speak if you had a big burlap sack of these seeds. The yoga is saying everything that we do, every action is bringing a reaction. So it's like we got a huge bag of these seeds that we're carrying around with us. And some of them have sprouted and taken form, and they're manifest, prarabdha. But we have still a big bag full of unmanifested karma that hasn't expressed itself yet, that's yet to come. So if one person seems to be, they're wealthy and they're healthy and they seem to be enjoying good karma, and another person is poor and suffering, and they seem to be experiencing bad karma, does it mean that this person has done all good and this person has done all bad? Or could it be that at the very next moment, the person that's enjoying good karma, that bag, that another seed will sprout, a seed of pain, a seed of suffering that's going to manifest, that everything that they have, they might lose it tomorrow. And the person that's in an unfortunate position, for all we know, they've burned off all their bad seeds now. And all the good karma is about to come their way from their past. So really, we have no ability to judge who's a better person, who's been a better person, based on the manifest karma, we would have to have the full equation of both their manifest and unmanifested karma to understand who's behaved well and who hasn't. Does that make sense? Therefore, the yogi does not make any judgments on this level. They have no business making any judgments on this level. Who's good and who's bad, and it's not at all their business. Rather, they just kind of adopt an assumption. That assumption is we're all like in a big washing machine getting like thrown around in this world. We're all going up and we're all going down. We've all been good and we've all been bad. We've all been sinner, we've all been saint, and we've all been back and forth and through all these different types of bodies, enjoying good karma and bad karma, going up to the higher planets, going down to the lower planets, coming back up and moving around. We just assume we're all just going through that. So we see each other with more of a sense of equality, brother and sisterhood, right? Not judgmental, rather compassionate, rather than saying, whatever we've done to get into the circumstances that we're in, let's see what we can do to make it better right now, right? The best thing that we can do is help us understand our circumstances, help each other understand that we're in this big washing machine for a reason and that there's a way out, right? That we all do have an eternal nature that's blissful. We all can connect with that. We all can learn from this cosmic sensitivity training, that if everything I do is coming back to me, let me always be kind. Let me always be compassionate. If some kind of hostility comes my way in this world, let me reflect on this law of karma. Let me process it through this knowledge and say to myself, rather than hate this person, let me recognize, just as they're acting towards me right now, I must have acted towards another in the past, right? I can keep this cycle going by responding in a like way. And then I know that in the future it's going to come back to me again. Or I can just say they're acting in the same mentality that I've acted in the past. They're no different from me, right? I'm not going to blame. I can tolerate. I can accept my karma. I can accept what's coming my way without any hostility towards this person, and I can transcend it all. I can even respond to hostility with kindness, right? And try to shift that cycle, right? Then I'm learning. Then I'm learning through seeing the world through the knowledge of karma, and I'm becoming free. And I can come to the stages in the verses that we were talking about earlier, right? Where I'm moving through this world, not to cultivate good reactions or bad reactions, but actually on this level of akarma, right? And one way, that the way that the Bhagavad Gita recommends one achieves this, is that you do everything for the pleasure of God. Whatever you do, you make it an offering to God. What is it? Yat karoshi yat ajnasi, yat jahosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat karushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you offer, whatever austerities you perform, whatever it is, don't do it to try to get something of this world back, knowing of the law of karma. Make it all an offering. And by making an offering to the higher power, it all becomes karma free. And I'll share one last analogy and then take questions. This analogy is a little tricky one, but because it's helpful, I'll share it. If you look at those that are American here, we're watching stuff happen in our own country right now, where people are acting apparently to carry out law, but they're really doing it in ways that are beyond that are actually breaking the law. And people getting hurt, even killed in this. But theoretically, let's speak theoretically. Theoretically, if a police officer is on a sidewalk and he sees that down at the other end of the block, there's a criminal that is attacking innocent people. Let's say they're even shooting innocent people. Now that police officer has a responsibility to stop that. That police officer has taken vows that they'll protect others. They've been paid a salary by the society to protect others, and they've agreed that in such circumstances they will step up and do the needful, even if it means taking out a gun, aiming it at the shooter, and shooting the shooter. Now they've done an action that is exactly what the shooter was doing. They took out a gun, they aimed it at someone, they pulled the trigger, and they killed someone. But one of them was doing it for some selfish purpose, and another was doing it on behalf of the higher power. What's the higher power in this case? That you could say it's the government is the higher power. The government grants him the power, and ultimately the government judges whether his action was beneficial or not, punishable or not. And the idea is because the criminal was doing it for selfish purposes, they can be arrested and prosecuted and ultimately punished for the action. Whereas the police officer didn't do it for any selfish purpose. They did it in service of the higher power. It was offered to the higher power selflessly, right? And therefore, there's no reaction for their act. They had nothing to gain from it. They did it as service. And so if we can learn to live that way, Krishna is asking Arjuna, learn to live that way. Turn your entire life into service to the divine. And when you act that way, there's no reactions to your actions. There's no bad reactions, there's not even good reactions. It's not bad or good karma. What happens is that your own nature begins to awaken in you. And that's something that you already have inside you. You just haven't felt it yet. And so in this way, I believe at the end of that other verse, it said they do nothing at all, right? They don't cultivate good karma, they don't cultivate bad karma, but they wake up, right? Their own nature begins to arise in them. Is that what it said there? They do nothing at all. You want to blow it? Yeah.
That's not saying nothing at all.
Yeah, having let go of their attachments to the fruits of work, always satisfied and independent. Such a person, even when engaged in action, does nothing at all. It's like the police officer, when they act that way, it's like they've done nothing at all, right? There's nothing to be punished for because it was all an offering. All right, we have about 2 minutes. Is there any questions before we end today? We doing all right with this? Is this idea of the three, could we go back to that original image that we had up in the beginning? There you go. Here's the predicament of the self, a spark of spiritual energy sitting in a material body, engaging with the world through material senses that bring information and feed it into a material mind, trapped within a material world that is governed by 3 laws, 3 programs downloaded and installed that create problems for us, make this place seem like it's not our home, but are nudging us to understand who we really are and where we really belong. And that's karma. Anyone want to read that? What does it say?
Natural force.
Natural,
Which delivers
na-
appropriate reactions to our actions.
natural force that delivers appropriate reactions to our actions. And time,
Natural force which ceaselessly charges, changes, and ultimately destroys everything composed of matter.
very nice. And then tomorrow, we talk about the gunas, that the yogis recognize that, and this has been downloaded and programmed into the world that we are, that every object is radiating a particular influence. And that influence enters into our awareness through our senses and adjusts things about how we think and how we feel. We're very susceptible to this influence, and we'll go into it in detail tomorrow. I don't have time to take questions for Prabhu. I'm sorry. Maybe we can bring it up first thing tomorrow. Because when Dvija Prabhu walks in that door, I know the time is up. Thank you so much. Please stick around for Kirtan. And happy to see you at Kirtan here today. I'm in the Q&A booth in the evening as well. And if you would like to hear more of these classes, the ones preceding or others, please talk to Gabrielle. She'll be right outside the door. I humbly beg for you not to approach me here, because I need to clear out, but if you'd like to speak, I'll also be outside. Thank you all so much. Hari Om Tat Sat.